Today we're going to do a really quick piece of art, watercolor on Yupo paper. It's quick because that's the amount of time I have. I was studying for a speech I'm going to give on healing emotional wounds with creative flow. Yupo paper is a non-tree paper. It's plastic, so it's got pros and cons to it. You can see that if you put color on it, the paper's not going to soak it up. And it can make these really weird movements. You can also get hyper detailed with this, as if you're painting on paper. There's very few watercolor experiences where if you mess up, you can undo it. But with this kind of paper, you can touch up things so perfectly. You can just wipe it right off, really. Purple does tend to stain a little bit, though. I'm just messing around. I honestly wanted to paint a little girl. My paintbrush is entirely too big. You can see I keep changing paintbrushes. I don't think I'm satisfied with any of them. Perhaps this is just a loose piece. I don't have any rubbing alcohol on me, but you could spray rubbing alcohol on this to get some really interesting effects. I'm always just interested to see how it dries. It dries with these dark lines around the edges. I'm painting outside, so it should dry pretty quickly with the breeze and the sun and the warmth. Currently living in Virginia, where I grew up, and it's so perfectly warm. I guess this is actually a grown woman and not a little girl. I recently painted this skeleton. I'm not sure if I've put the video out yet, but you can get really detailed with this kind of paper. But you don't always have control over the paper accepting the paint, such as if there's an oily fingerprint somewhere. Sometimes I like to paint with a super loose kind of vibe. My inspiration with this was I wanted to paint kind of my own identity. I wanted to paint my own identity. So I was imagining kind of my old cartoons that I always do, where the right center in the middle. But I was just playing around with this to show you the paper initially. Sometimes I really enjoy creating the challenge for myself of making a sort of messy piece of art and then tightening it up to be something more satisfying. But art is super relative, and the only thing that really matters is that you are enjoying the process of your own work. The more I've been learning about flow, the more I realize that when you allow that inner critic to come in, you are definitely not in flow, for one, and for two, you could be blocking yourself from getting into flow in general. Kind of the sense I'm getting from this piece is that she's looking into her own mind. And it also seems like she's kind of in awe. Oh, do you see that fingerprint showing up? That's so cool. I did not think that would work. I'm gonna make more fingerprints. Now someone has my identity. Let's watch the fingerprints appear. Look at that. I wasn't sure in the skeleton piece if it really was the fingerprints that were causing that or not, but sure enough, it totally is. Now, too much water might not let those fingerprints show up. So, you learn. The act of creating artwork is a learning process, so you don't really know what's going to happen. Something I've been learning about flow is that it actually primes your brain to be more comfortable with risk-taking. So to me, this totally feels risky because I'm just blobbing stuff out there and I'm like, what is it going to be? You know, you do kind of wonder. But without risk-taking, you lower your chances of coming up with something unique and creative. Her hand looks really creepy right now. Let me know in the comments if you've ever used Yupo Paper. Also, please do comment, even if you're just commenting an emoji, because not only does it super duper encourage me, but it also helps the algorithm, and I'm really trying to grow this YouTube channel because I'm really passionate about it and I think I have a lot of value to give people. I put out a tutorial about drawing a cartoon. I'll link in the description. That one did not get many views, but my last watercolor one got a lot. You can see how well I can erase with this paper. You could never do that with regular watercolor paper that's so porous and soaks up all the color. I have a soft spot for human profiles, but for some reason I can never get them quite right. Like, I know the lower part of the face is supposed to be a little further out than the higher part, and her nose is definitely too high on her face for that size forehead. A flat brush is actually the best thing to use as an eraser, but I don't have one on me right now. Probably gonna let that dry before I put in the face more appropriately, otherwise it's just gonna smear. Then again, I'm actually a little bit too impatient. I'm just gonna go for it and then touch it up. Ugh. Start over. The key with profiles that I always mess up on is, yes, the lips are right under the nose, but the nose actually comes back significantly from that area before you get to the forehead. And there sometimes can be that eye divot as well. My hair is not this long, but I wish. It's getting there. I'm growing it out. Last haircut my mom gave me, and I was in a gas station recently, and some people were making fun of haircuts, saying it's like their mom did it. My mom did pretty well, but I got a little bit too many bangs, so I'm growing those out right now. If anything, it was just fun letting my mom do my hair. But before that, the haircut I had was a mohawk mullet. So I'm glad that's gone. If you work with a reference photo, it's going to be a lot easier. Her arm is definitely too short. I just like to paint from my imagination because oftentimes when I find a reference photo, it's on my phone which is annoying. I do have my phone here because I need an alarm for going to ballet, but I did buy 2 watches so that I didn't need to have my phone nearby so that I could keep track of time, but keeping track of time is easier if you can keep track of where the watch is. Oftentimes I get confused, like, where's the thumb on the hand? So if this is her right hand, her thumb is coming out this direction, assuming she's got her palm up. I feel like a palm up is kind of a surrender, sort of receiving symbol, which can never have enough of that. I can look at my own hand for a size reference. This is also an impressionistic kind of painting. It really does not have to be perfect. The hand has this interesting shape. This part goes slightly down, this part goes out, this part comes in, and they all connect. So that's kind of the shape I think about when I'm doing a hand. So that's why this needs to just come out a little further. Hands really aren't that hard when you learn the shape. But she actually has her palm kind of this direction. It doesn't look very realistic, so let's just start over. This paper is so great for starting over. Her brain is starting to look a little bit chaotic here, but I'm gonna tighten it up, don't you worry. She's got a handle on it. Hopefully you can hear the birds singing. I know that the sound quality on my camera is really not that great. Eventually I'll find a better microphone. I've bought some, I just don't think they're any better. Let's see, if her hand should really be like this kind of shape. Her palm. My thumb is really up inside the hand. Come back and fix that when it dries. It's just the basic shape. She has blue skin for some reason. Yeah, I guess if you want full control over the paper, don't touch it. Because see here, there's fingerprints too. I don't mind them. I like them really. But they were really annoying when I was painting that skeleton. I hope that this messy painting gives you permission to make messy art. Your art doesn't have to look good. It just has to feel fun. That's what matters. Let me know in the comments if you're painting along with me or just watching. The other thing I've been learning about flow is that the presence of certain neurochemicals, such as dopamine, also cause ideas to come into your mind, which is why you typically get a lot of ideas when you're in flow. And it's super helpful if you are creating because you'll just automatically know what to do, which is one reason why people describe flow as being effortless. And another reason why I like to go about my art from my imagination without pre-planning. Because trying to figure out what you want to do before you start is significantly harder than figuring it out when you're already making it. But I do have a tendency to start with swirls. I didn't do that today, but especially in my sketchbook, and then sometimes the swirl I start with is kind of in my way. I may practice having some more go-tos. I just bought a book on patterns. All it is a bunch of pictures of patterns. I'm sure the photographer had a lot of fun making it. I'm so stoked on it. If you do like this video, please share it with one of your art-interested friends. That would really help grow my channel a lot. So the idea that I had come up with that sparked that train of thought talking about flow was that I thought it'd be cool if there was a tree in her mind. Maybe the tree could be shaped like a brain or something. That way it kind of tells the story to the viewer that she's looking into her own mind. Now if up here has wet spots, when I touch that, it's going to just disperse and blur. Like, look at that cool dispersion. But I really want it to be a little bit tighter. And what if the tree was coming out of her hand? The problem with the tree coming out of her hand is then it doesn't feel like it's from the mind so much. But your hand is such a powerful part of your body. You use it for so many things. I feel like the tree growing out of her mind would be kind of odd. So here it's like she's giving, maybe not so much receiving. I can always do another painting of a tree growing from her mind. It's almost like she's projecting the image with her hand. Okay, now this is the right hemisphere of the brain. You can always come in and touch up the shape. I'm starting with a very dark color. If you want more freedom to touch stuff up, you can start with a lighter color. I am messing up what's underneath when I go to erase that, but that's fine by me. I love how art teaches you about yourself, because it's almost like, what could it really mean that it's coming from her hand or being received into her hand? I'm actually working on a whole series of art in acrylic that's about the mind, so I'm pretty familiar with painting brains. If I do need to work on it in more than one session, all the better. I've been learning lately how not to do too much in one day or rush myself. Because I was preparing for this speech, but I knew that I only had an hour before I needed to leave the house, so I could continue typing it up even though I got to a good stopping point. Or I could just do a little art. Because I also wanted to go print it off at the library, but it's not really at the place where it could be printed off. I'm literally giving the speech tomorrow, but they only gave me about 3 weeks to practice, or basically, 3 weeks of heads up notice. Ooh, the branches can be the wiggles of the brain. Although these swiggles are probably not anatomically correct, it is easier for me to paint them without a reference image because I have practiced painting these brain swiggles for years and years and years. Because if you do try to paint brain swiggles and you've never done it before, it's surprisingly challenging, and it's like, how in the world? I noticed that in my coffee, if I put some thick coconut milk or whatever it is called in there and watch it rise to the surface, it has these very brain-like patterns. It's really cool. As an artist, you pay attention to all those little things. A piece of the flow is actually that your senses are heightened. My focus is a little everywhere. It's called divergent thinking, which actually also happens naturally when you get into the flow zone. You connect ideas. Actually, convergent is connecting ideas, but divergent is when the ideas go all different directions, like tree branches. But they still connect. This is fun, making tutorial videos. And see, this is why I do a little something wild with the background, just so that there's something going on. And it looks cool. These lighter colors don't really go over the darker colors unless they're super thick. But that's why you start with the lighter colors and build to the value. Purple hair, how did this happen? I really need a smaller brush, but they're all pretty frayed. Kind of looks like she's amazed. The feeling of awe is actually a flow trigger because you're starting up those chemicals in your brain. If you want to go into the flow quickly, you can experience that awe-inspiring, I guess that's why they call it awe-inspiring sort of feeling. I'm not super interested in realism. I love that you can erase so easily with this paper. Probably the only thing that's really being taught in this tutorial right now. Besides flow. I guess it's a flow tutorial. Oh, the other really fun thing to do is that you can scratch into this paint. Like, I could scratch smaller, but you can use your fingernails to go like that too. That's what's really cool about this paper, that you can scratch into it. Right now I'm kind of lifting off the paint that's there to make these lines. You can do that really well with this kind of paper. You can do it with normal watercolor paper too, but it's especially easy with this paper. I love how that dried, that little heart I did. That's gonna dry really cool too when it's dry. So I kind of created the brain to stand out a little more by adding in this blue. But the branches don't stand out too much. It doesn't really look as much like a tree now. But I also want the edges of the paper so you don't have all these distracting lines up here, and it helps bring the focus in. So I'm really being called to yellow. But there's no yellow in the piece. This has got a warm tint to it, but that's about, well, these also have warm tints. But essentially it's kind of like, again, going into that risk-taking, adding another color. Because one of the art rules is that when you're far along in a painting, you really shouldn't add more color. But I think instead of going in with full-on yellow, I'm going to choose this brownish yellow, because I've already got brown going on, and that is going to do the trick. It needs to be much waterier though, lighter. That's just gonna help draw it in. It might mix with this blue because the blue is still wet, so even though that's not my intention, I'm okay with it. We'll see what happens. Could also have been cool to put leaves on this, but all this abstract stuff in the background is a lot like leaves. And then there's not a ton going on here, which is great. You don't want to overpower your piece. I could bring some like weird yellow in here a little bit, but you really don't want to overpower it with too much going on everywhere, because there's definitely already a lot going on. Oh, another fingerprint appears. That's fun. Now, because there's yellow up here, we almost have to just balance it out by adding a little yellow down here. Definitely looks more yellow than brown. If we do want to dull that yellow a little bit, you can add its complementary color of purple. I just might add in a little more brown, just blobs, so it'll create some really cool smudging, smeary looking stuff. This looks dry down here. I really do want her to have eyeball, because I do a lot of faceless figures. I just want an eyeball. I want her, because kind of the concept of the piece is she's really looking up into this. There we go, I did it. I really wanted her to look like she's looking up. The eyeball is a really important part of this piece. But it doesn't really look like she's looking up. I'm not satisfied. It's just the angle of it. It's a little more angled. She would look like she's looking up more. Just have to use the lightest amount of pressure to make these tiny lines. And hardly any water in here, just to help. Yeah, no, she's looking up. There we go. She's got an eye. It's okay. I'm not super satisfied with her eye, but I'm working with limited supplies. When it comes to flow zone, you do kind of pick and choose what you're gonna let distract you. Like, do I go upstairs, get another brush, pause the camera, all the things. My camera can be a distraction from flow zone, especially if the battery dies or it just stops filming for one reason or another. There we go. Satisfied. This piece could be done. Now I'm just lifting off and smudging these blue lines because I felt like since it was the same value as the branches, you couldn't really see the branches, so I'm just lightening that up.